Another story from Tales of a Chocolate Smuggler. This one's probably the bravest story I ever wrote. It's called Singing the Dragons. A solitary man walked along a windswept beach. Grey skies, lonely screaming seagulls, rolling thunder waves. Banshee. The winds pushed and carried and harassed the sand. Swift-moving currents formed rivulets and streams. Abrasive, independent and vaporous, the sand streamed over the sodden mass which was the beach. The man was lost in his own world. It was not a friendly world, but nor was it dangerous. It simply was his own. In his world lived dragons and monsters in the shadows of his world, where his fears and insecurities hid. A seagull wheeled overhead. A lonely dying cry as it sliced the air in a powerful display of grace. The simplicity of flight. The seagull, unaware of the man, unaware of gravity, unaware of dragons. Silver against the grey. Freedom in the oppressive light. The seaweed, like Chinese hieroglyphics in the sand, spoke of unseen powers and unexplored realms, in languages unable to be read. The language of the sea and the tongue of the ancients, the helter-skelter sand, arranging and rearranging the ancient text of the seaweed, telling of deeds brave and heinous, of the death of Atlantis, the secrets of the world to the wind. Within the world of his mind, the man fought terrible battles. He won and lost, land and armies, riches and honour. The enemy was always the same, the dragons. The dragons with their dragon fear, which could reduce him to a quivering mass of insecurity and hysteria. The dragons who waited in the shadows of his world, ready, slavering, coiled. His own dragons, whom he hated and despised and carried around with him. In his head, he hated himself, his weakness and his fear, the fear of dragons. From far out to sea he watched as a ridge of water approached. Unthinking, unfeeling, without malice, the swell of the sea. It grew and formed into a wave. As it grew, it accelerated, gaining in power and momentum until it finally towered above the shoreline, curled in grace and in omnipotence. In a savage act of passion, the wave hurled itself upon the shoreline and dissipated. The power gone, just a fine sheet of spray flying in the wind, and a film of water racing up the sand underneath the wind. The ancient seaweed parchment rearranged. Another tale to tell. Another chapter ended. The man looked upon his bleak mindscape and compared it to what spread itself before him. A small solitary man in the midst of a primordial struggle, as the ocean and the firmament battled for supremacy in a war of attrition. The boulders, the harried sand, the cliffs and the mountainsides, and the sea, advancing and retreating, defending and repelling, forever and ever. Unceasing and untiring, using the same patterns and strategies over and over, unthinking and unlearning. He sat in the sand. As soon as he stopped moving, the dragons approached, the dragons of twilight. He recognized these ones. They were familiar to him. Stealthy, insidious, grey-on-grey apparitions in a monochromatic void. He watched them approach with a curious detachment. The dragons of twilight were defeatable when he was not too tired. The first pangs of dragon fear tingled. Lonely. You are all alone in this world. You are lonely and alone, and you are vulnerable. Who will watch your back, little man? Who will welcome you home? Who will hold you in the screaming silence of the night when our brethren come for you? You who have no one to run to, what will you do now? The dragons began the ritual song, the dragon song. I am alone but not lonely. I am part of a life force which is everything and everywhere. I am alone and stand strong within my body, within my mind and in my world. I am alone, but I am not lonely. He waited in anticipation. The second stanza was always so predictable. He was not tired. Fatigue always made them so much stronger. They could get so much closer. Pathetic little man. No one will ever love you. Ever. You were alone as a child. You're alone now. You'll be alone forever. No one can love you. You are just too unlovable. You are blighted, pathetic. Come with us, little man. Come to the dragon fear. It is all you are worthy of and all you deserve. You are weak. You will die lonely if you do not embrace us now. I do not need you. I am I and by myself. I am alone with I. I will care for I do not need you. I is all I need to be content. I will rest and heal my wounds. I will feed my hunger. I will speak for I and for myself. I alone will control the destiny of I. You are welcome to go your way, though. Go and travel the roads of monsters and ghoulies and other bad things that frighten small children in the night. Go and leave me be. We will come, little man. We will speak to you, indeed we will, not just when you're ready for us. When you are tired and we are strong, we will come for you. The salt spray on his face, the stinging sound whipping around his bare arms, brought him from the battlefield to the war. Thick masses of thunderheads sailed over the horizon, mountains in the skies, pursued by the angry, screaming wind. Waves lashed the shoreline. Artillery explosions whomped and thumped the coast, trying to make a breach, searching for a weakness. He watched in awe as a boulder, perched on a sandstone pillar, slowly started to sway. The pillar had stood for 1,000,000 years, and now it was suddenly tired. It rocked slowly to an angle and stopped. The massive rock remained, unmoving, impervious to the surging, teeming waters below. A swift-moving band of water reared from the ocean bed and formed a liquid sabre. It curled itself over, but held its force. It reared back. Spray ripped from it by the wind, flung over its shoulder in abandon. The wave rippled and throbbed with violence. It hurled itself to the shore. It smashed against the pillar and exploded into a mass of vapour and droplets. Immediately the wind took prisoners. A thin film of water raced up the sandy shore, underneath the wind, toward the man. He watched. The pillar of compressed sand, the pillar which had stood for 1,000,000 years, slowly crumbled before his eyes. The boulder, so powerful and impervious, launched itself towards the sea, bent on revenge and destruction. A massive explosion, splash, an impressive sheet of water, immediately captured and made prisoner by the relentless wind. Nothing, no mark of its passing. The boulder simply disappeared, as if it never was. The sea ebbed and flowed and quicksilvered around, then retreated, never completely expending itself, untiring. The skies darkened, the pale disk of the sun slowly sank into the bowels of the sea. Night was coming. Banshee wind noise, scudding thunderheads, unceasing wave explosions. The solitary man on a seashore preparing for battle. The myriad dragons of stormy night could just be vaguely made out in the doom. Their red eyes blazing, their form undefined, the songs of nighttime solitude, the dragon fear. Whose fault is it, little man? Little man, someone must be to blame. Blame your mother, little man. Blame her for not protecting you. Blame your father for his weakness. Blame your wife for a failing. Blame your lover for not understanding you. Your friends for not noticing. Whose fault is it, little man? It is not fair, it is not. You cannot be expected to cope. You are only so strong, are you not? It is unfair, to be sure. It must be someone's fault. You tried and tried, did you not? It is not your fault if it did not work. Come, let us find who is to blame. Let us punish them for their ignorance and cruelty, little man. We are one in this. We are not to blame. We understand. Come on, little man. It's a cruel world. It's a cruel world, little man. We deserve better, don't we? Someone to blame we need, do we not? It is not our fault. Life is unfair. The dragon song of nighttime solitude had begun. The man sat unseeing in the night. His eyes scanned a world of horror and loathing, a history of pain. He saw himself as a small child. A small child standing in a darkened corridor, he is scared and wonders where his mother is. Only a dim light permeates the long passage. He slowly walks toward the end. It is a long way away, and his footsteps sound too loud for him. Too loud. As he walks, he hears a faint noise and sees a light from under a door, and he walks to the door. The small boy reaches up to the doorknob. He's wearing a suit. His hand touches the door handle. It is round. He turns it, and the door lock releases. He stops. Instinctively, he knows he should not enter this room. The boy looks around and sees only the darkness. His mother is not there, and he is afraid. He is alone. Why isn't he in bed, safe? Where is his mother? Why does he not ask where his father is? Does he think that his father is in the room? Who is in the room? The small boy opens the door. He sees a small table with a light on. The lamp is on. He sees a big man in a dark suit, or rather he sees the man's stomach. The black-suited stomach puts something on the boy's head. Everything goes black, and he is lying on the floor. The small boy rips at the thing on his head. He screams in the dark. He sees the man on top of a small girl in a light-coloured dress. The girl is crying. The man is moving. The man looks at the small boy. The man gets up and walks over to the small boy. The dragon fear. The dragon song of nighttime solitude, the song of self-hate and loathing. He's running up the street. His school bag clutched to his hands. Got to make it, got to get to safety. They lay in wait. A small group of boys wait for him as they always had. They surrounded him and pushed him and spat on him. They punched and kicked him. He screamed in fear and humiliation. Blame. Who do we blame, little man? His uncle came from the void. You know you pissed in my mouth when you were a child. Do you remember that? Do you remember pissing in my mouth one night? His mother whipped him with a belt across the back, buttocks and legs in a screaming rage. The night his mother left with his sister into the night, leaving him with his alcoholic father the day his father and uncle had a fight. I don't want my son turning into a queer. We aren't to blame. They are, little man. He sat in the silence, twitching involuntarily, as the dragon fear played its song of hatred and disgust. He was scared when he had children, scared of what he might do to them, his beautiful and innocent children, scared for he did not know how to be a father. He left them safe with their mother. He returned later when he was sure they had overcome the unknown. You could have done something, you know, little man. You could have been like your... We know who he is, little man, the man in the black suit. You will turn out like him, you know. If you did, it would not be your fault. You could be your man in a black suit. Your drunk, violent father, powerful mother. You could, little man. It would not be your fault. Come and join us, lonely man. We will stand by you. You are all these things. You are already all these things. Be them. Live out your destiny. The powerful dragons of nighttime solitude eroded his confidence. Maybe tonight he would go mad. Maybe this was the night of the dragons. The rain sliced through the sky, stinging and painful, wet matted hair dripping down his forehead, mixing with the salt of his tears and dribbling off his chin. His heart pounded, his chest ached. The sound of dragon fear wailed in his ears. Memories came flooding, haunting him with echoes of pain. His father's grave in the rain. The dragon song continued. You are the sum of your experiences. You are the sum of your experiences. Your destiny awaits. You are what you fear the most. Come to us, little man. Who can we blame? You who are alone. You who are lonely. You weak and pathetic little man. You cannot deny us. We will not be denied. You cannot run, you cannot. I will find you. I am one now. I and my brethren have joined. We are the dragons of your destiny. I am the dragon of your destiny. Come and embrace me. I am the sum of your experiences. I am you. Come to me, little man, and fulfill your destiny. Weakness and self-loathing. The man shuddered when he looked into himself. Is this what I am to become? His doubts screamed and reverberated around his head. His dragon song echoed into his fear. Dragon fear. The storm raged. Run away. I must run away. I'm too weak. I'm too scared. The dragons will get me. When he was younger, he could not sleep in a dark room on his own. He was scared of the monster that came in the night. He thought that the monster hid under the bed. Now he was not so sure. When he was older, he could not go to the toilet in the middle of the night without feeling fear when he came to the door in the dark. He had to force himself to open the door and would only enter when he had turned on the light. Dark rooms, anxiety, turn the light on first, know what you're walking into. The storm raged and he felt fear. What to do? The man had to decide. Had to make space, had to confront himself, the dragons, the dragon song and the fear. I will no longer fight you. The storm passed overhead, and the moon gazed down on the man alone in his thoughts. The air was clean and ionized, clean and cleansing. It filled his lungs and cleared his head. I will not fight you, for I cannot. You have no form beyond that which I give you. You have no power beyond that which is my fear. You have no life on your own. I will not fight you any longer, O powerful dragon. The stars filled the sky, illuminating a rocky path leading up a steep cliff face, and the man began his climb. The way was only dimly lit by stars and by the moon, but it was enough. It was the beginning. You are not part of me, you are history alone. I am I. I am young and old, I am weak and strong. I am a fool for fighting you for so long, and for so hard. The time for fighting is past, dragon. Though you have grown in strength, I can see you now. You are not part of me, and I do not accept you into the eye. You exist only in the frightscape of a small child, a child who no longer exists. I have grown considerably since your birth, old fettered one. There is nothing you can do to me now. Your time has passed. In the calm of the night, under the benevolent gaze of the moon and the glory of starlight, the man turned to his dragon, blinked his eyes, smiled, and continued on his difficult journey. He saw nothing where there was once substance. Where he gained by no longer having to fight dragons every step of the way, he also had to give. There was no dragon to blame, no phantom who caused his misfortune. He was alone to accept his own responsibility. He accepted this weight and carried them on his mortal legs and his aging shoulders and in his greying head. Below him the seaweed hieroglyphics formed and reformed, telling tales of battles and history of forgotten lands, of shipwrecks, of men, and of dragons. The end.